All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
Oh, wait, what's going on there? I don't know. Good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's, what is today? Today's Thursday because Alf is not here. He'll be here in a second, though. He did actually reach out to me. He will be here momentarily. In the meantime, we'll get to our sponsors before we get into today's show. Welcome. Still trying to get my hang for the intro music coming in and all that stuff. So we'll get that figured out. There you are. The man, the myth, I don't even know what to say about that. How you doing, brother?
Good. Where's our intro?
The intro is being made currently. So we're just doing the daily intro. So you don't get your 3 minutes. And I've got the background music. I had a formula for so long. When Trump starts saying the Badlands, I start the music, that, kind of the overlay music. And so now that I don't have that anymore, the music is off. And so when I come in and I'm live on the screen, I feel weird. I feel very weird.
You feel naked?
I feel so naked, like naked and afraid. I'm afraid to do this show now because of that.
Well, listen, it threw me off too because I'm just like, what the hell does that thing say live for? Like, I'm supposed to come in here, run over there, get the coffee going. Like, I got like 4 more minutes, man.
Exactly what I do, man. That's exactly like the intro starts. I run downstairs. I fill my coffee cup. I fill my water mug. I'm good to go. I get up here. Badlands. It's a hell of a name. Start the intro. It's got me thrown off, man. But we'll get it figured out.
Haley gets to watch me put on my makeup.
Oh, there you go. Oh, why is that not soft disclosure?
I actually do have the soft disclosure one. I have the Smart Garden one right here.
Oh, there you go.
Amazing. I need to get myself the soft disclosure one.
Yeah, you do. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. All right, guys, let's go ahead and hit into our sponsors, guys. Hey, have you guys checked out the Badlands shop lately? You might be surprised at what you're missing, from the thoughtful gifts and unique finds to everyday household essentials and personal care must-haves. There's truly something for everyone over at the Badlands shop, but here's what makes a difference. Every single purchase you make is so much more than just buying stuff. You're investing directly in the movement, you're empowering America First businesses, and you're lifting up fellow Badlanders and supporting the creators who are building this community along with us. Thank you for being a part of this and for your support. It means everything to us. Head on over to badlandsmedia.tv/shop or click shop on the main menu at badlandsmedia.tv and discover your new favorite brands. Again, head on over to badlandsmedia.tv/shop. There you go. And yes, helps us out.
We do it live.
F it. We're doing it live. F it. All right.
Dude, I'm back on my early morning schedule.
You're back on your early morning schedule?
Like my early morning schedule, because I've been up for a minute.
I know. You texted me. Alpha actually texted me this morning, and I'm gonna throw out some personal info here. You take a shower after your cold plunge?
Hell yeah.
Why?
Because I just got out of 42, 41 degree water and I want to warm up.
I mean, isn't the whole point of the cold plunge to kind of shock your body and let it keep going like that?
Oh, it is. And once you get out, it does that. And then there's, what's the term that they use for it? It's a combination of what they call cold heat therapy. I actually have a sauna there too, but there's not enough time to do that today. But no, I go in there, do it anywhere between 3 minutes and 5 minutes. And then, as a matter of fact, what I do is I turn on the shower before I go into the cold plunge. So that bad boy is already hot because I'm only going to be at the cold plunge, like I said, anywhere from, 5-6 minutes. And so I get in there and then I'm in there and then, my watch timer goes off and it's literally, I always tell myself 90 seconds, 90 seconds. And then when the 90 seconds hits, I'm like 30 more seconds. And then when I hit the 2-minute mark, then it's just like, all right, let's make it to 3. We'll dunk our head under one more time, last 30 seconds, and we're out. And then, like I said, somewhere between 3 and 5, I come out, and then it's like, here's my advice to anybody that ever decides to do a cold plunge and then go take a hot shower. Preset your temperature, like know what your hot temperature is, like for your body. Because when you go in there, your body's freezing.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be like, you'll turn it to the hot where you actually burn your skin because you're not feeling it.
Right.
And I remember one of the first times I did it, this is back when I was doing it through the pool, and it was only like 52, 51 degrees. And I remember I came in and my calves actually had, almost felt like I had a sunburn because the water is so hot by the time I realized it. And so I learned from that. So I always have the water temp preset, know where that mark is so you don't burn your skin. But it's amazing. I feel good, man.
All right.
Good. Fired up.
All right. Well, let's hit one more sponsor real quick. Then we'll get into today's news and let's talk about some soft disclosure. Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone at the close-up, do you see how awesome my beard looks right now?
I use the beard oil every single day. First thing.
Comes out feeling all silky smooth.
I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil
To every
directly
hair.
to my mustache.
Nice and, oh man, I love it.
And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in. And then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
Do it, Jay.
that amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you will be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willow and Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with one purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable, but for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And Soft Disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great, great product. All right, softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands. Check it out, and let's get into the news. Smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. And let's go ahead and jump over to this story here from Just the News first, right off the rip. Everybody, Alpha, has been so laser focused on the Save America Act and the Department of Homeland Security, funding shutdown that we've seen over the last, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. I did not even know this, and I think this was intentional, right, to deceive. U.S. House tanks ballot budget amendment as national debt tops $39 trillion. There was actually a resolution to pass a constitutional amendment to require Congress to pass a balanced budget, and nobody knew about it. Did you know about it?
Had no clue.
No clue. This would have had as much, maybe more support than the Save America Act. Fiscal responsibility for this country that's almost $40 trillion in debt, with a debt interest rate now that exceeds our defense spending budget, which is second only to CMS spending. That is absolutely insane that none of us were tracking on this. I wish I could say, I wish I knew about this. I would have been railing on this. I mean, the Save America Act is great, and it's probably dead on arrival. We'll get into that. But this is crazy. It says the failed Wednesday vote comes as federal spending pushed the national debt over $39 trillion, $3 trillion higher than it was just 12 months ago, which means the U.S. government was adding nearly $89,000 per second to the national debt over the past year. Since this show has begun, we're what now, 10 minutes in? That's 600 seconds.
That is
$89,000 for every second, 600 seconds that we've been on air, Alpha. The resolution proposed a constitutional amendment that would cap federal spending each year at the average annual revenue of the previous 3 years. Quote, total expenditures for a year shall not exceed the average annual receipts collected in the 3 prior years, adjusted in proportion to the changes in the population of the citizens of the United States and inflation. Debt payments are excluded from the definition of quote unquote expenditures, and the amendment would not apply during wartime. So in other words, this isn't even a true balanced budget amendment, because a balanced budget includes your interest rates. Like when you go to balance your financials, when you balance your checkbook and you take care of your own personal finances, you can't say, well, I'm going to balance everything, but all the interest I'm paying on my credit card debts, on my mortgage, on my auto loans, I'm going to put all that stuff off to the side. And we're not going to include that in our balanced budget, which means you're actually running a deficit. So they even had, kind of the benefit of the doubt here, given that the interest rate, like I just said, is the highest expenditure that we have in our budget. They weren't even including that in this proposal, and it still doesn't pass. Additionally, lawmakers could override the law if 2/3 of both chambers chose to do so. Wait. Hold on. Let's hash this out here. A constitutional amendment, which requires, 2/3 and 3/4 to pass. And part of the stipulation of that constitutional amendment would be that they could override the Constitution. No. If it's a constitutional amendment, it's an amendment. You're not overriding that. You can have the wartime stipulation. I understand that. I understand in a time of war, as long as it's a congressionally declared war, World War II being the last one, then I'm okay with that. But I'll land this here for a minute and let you comment on this.
So one, I want to know, was there any riders on it? Because it just seems like it would be like political suicide if your constituents found out. And when was the last time we had a single issue bill?
Well, let me finish since you brought that up, because I was shocked. This article shocked me to the core as I was
just
reading.
this is the first I'm hearing of this right now.
Yeah,
okay.
Me too. I'm going to blow your mind even more, Alpha. The resolution's opponents argue that any balanced budget amendment potentially jeopardizes ever-growing entitlement programs. Democrats in particular opposed a provision that would have required a 2/3 vote from both chambers in order to impose any tax increases, which would boost federal revenue and could offset the deficits. So to be fair, they actually had a good provision in here that, well, we can't just raise your taxes so that we can spend more, right? There was actually a requirement in here for a 2/3 approval before you could impose any new taxes. So again, this is a pretty favorable bill in that aspect. I'm not a big fan of overriding it with 2/3 of Congress, because they will vote 2/3. They will all come together if it means more money for them. Always they will. And well, it's not for them, it's the budget. Shit, it's for them. It's getting laundered back to them, to their donors, to their
NGOs,
the NGOs. It's all getting laundered back to them somehow. If California, Minneapolis, the Act Blue smurfing, if all of that hasn't exposed that to you, I can't help you. Democratic whip Catherine Clark said that the resolution left, quote, virtually no way to balance the budget without drastic cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Or, hear me out, you got to clean up the fraud in Medicare, Social Security, hospice, and healthcare. We had a great interview. If you guys missed yesterday's Badlands Daily. We had Amy Reichert on, who was the woman that was with Nick Shirley when he was doing that expose in California. He was fantastic, talking about, how this has all been front and center. Like, the government should be all over this and nobody gives a shit, but they're going to complain about this. The resolution needed 2/3, but it only received 211 votes. 8 Republicans and 6 Democrats did not vote. Now, and they would need 290 votes for the 2/3. So they only got 211. So they're about 79 votes short of that. Now, here's the part that also blew my mind, Alpha, because I didn't know this either. U.S. lawmakers have introduced balanced budget proposals hundreds of times over the past 50 years and over 100 times since 1999 alone. Only twice in American history has any balanced budget proposal passed either chamber of Congress. It passed the Senate in 1982 and the House in 1995.
Wow.
How do I not know this? I mean, I've always considered myself, pretty well read up on politics and everything. And of course, that all changed significantly and drastically in getting, involved in this as a business model, right? Since, the 2020 election and even a little bit before that. And so even in that 6-year period, I've never come across this. That's in the last 27 years, since 1999, over 100 times, Congress has proposed a balanced budget resolution. And again, like, I would guarantee you, if we did people on the street interviews, man on the street interviews with this,
nobody knows.
Nobody would know. Nobody would know.
Bro. Not even somebody who studies this on the daily. Nobody knows. And it's crazy. I like to think of these things, like I like to create these analogies in my head to kind of put it in perspective. And it's like, owning a construction company, and you land the bid, on a huge multi-million-dollar project, right? And so they send you all this money because you got this contract for this grid, right? A government contract. And you get in there and you start building this building, and the government comes in and says, hey, we just want to do an audit real quick, make sure everything's up to speed, that we're hitting our timelines. What's built at this point is supposed to be built. And you're like, nah, bro, can't do that. But while we're at it, I need more money for the project. But it's like, yeah, but I just want to make sure. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're not going to show me, can you just sign this contract that says that all these things will be complete, with the money that I'm giving you? And you're like, nah, bro, I'm not signing no contract. Like, just God, trust me and give me more money. It's just crazy. These concepts would shock people in any other part of the world. As far as not talking political, any company, private organization, none of this would fly ever. People would think you're crazy, laugh at you, fire you.
So, okay. So I was playing around with the machine just now, and you're spot on. Like, in the private sector, none of this would ever fly. Ever. Every single member of Congress that proposed a budget that was a deficit would continue to add to an already bloated debt would be fired from that position. They would be removed from the board. They would never be allowed to work on a board again, for even proposing such a preposterous idea. But in Congress, they're elected. They're elected. So Congress has had 2 full floor votes on the federal balanced budget constitutional amendment since 1999, once in 2011 and once in 2018. I didn't know about either of those. Again, and I mean, I know quite a bit about the Convention of States and the push for a balanced budget proposal there, term limits, all the things that we would want to see, put forward. And I never even knew, because if we had the knowledge of this, if this was, and by the way, I blame this fully and completely on the Mockingbird media, entirely on the media, for not talking about this when in 2011 and 2018. This should have been front and center like the Save America Act is right now on Fox News, on all of those media outlets.
Just shows how long it's been compromised.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that. And to be fair, this is now something that has to be on our radar, because this will come up again, given the track record, or at least push for this to come up again. I mean, we can retroactively push for this bill to be, reintroduced, this resolution to be reintroduced, and show that there's overwhelming American support for this.
Imagine asking someone like, Speaker Johnson or Thune, either one of them, like, hey, what's the deal with this? Why has it been over 100 times that this thing hasn't passed? And just recently it didn't pass. Like, do you guys want to clue in the American people? What's wrong here? Like, what's the argument of why Republicans aren't voting on this? What excuse can you provide? Because here's the crazy part. If they come on and say, well, I'm not familiar with it, I got to go look at it. As I understood it, I didn't see any writers on it. So it's, was this an actual single issue bill?
Let me, it doesn't say. I mean, it's a resolution. It's not a bill. So it's a resolution to propose the amendment. Now, again, if it's saying that it's been proposed 26 times over the last 27 or 100 times since the last 27 years, and it's only been voted on the House in 11 and 18, and now, of course, so 3 times now, then that would tell me that most of the time it doesn't make it out of committee. It doesn't make it out. And again, that's a tragedy in and of itself. But that is something where you can narrow down accountability, because, the committees are much narrower than the full 435 member House or 100 member Senate. So therefore you can kind of isolate this to 10, 12, 15 people, sometimes more, sometimes less. But either way, let me read this quote here. Choosing to abandon our fiscal responsibilities like this does not exist in a vacuum. In fact, it wreaks havoc on our economy and everyday life, says Maya McGinnis, president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Higher debt exacerbates inflationary pressures, squeezes out investment in our economy, allows interest costs to dominate our defense spending, leaves us vulnerable to emergencies and geopolitical turmoil, and could even provoke a fiscal crisis. Rather than ignoring these milestones, as both parties have largely done, policymakers should acknowledge them for what they are and begin pivoting toward a more stable course. You know what else is kind of interesting to me? And again, this is probably something that'll be a little unpopular. I've never heard President Trump talk about any of this either. The bill specifically, these proposals to the Constitution here. I've never heard anybody talk about this other than people that go out there, and when I say people, I'm not talking about our selected officials. I'm talking about, there's a few, libertarians that are out there, maybe Ron Paul talking about it, that kind of thing. But
let me ask you this: why pass it as a resolution versus a bill?
Because I think it's a resolution to amend the Constitution. So I don't know. That's most likely the process. I don't know the nuance behind that.
Well, then I would have to research that and be like, well, what is the percentage of resolutions that get brought up that just get shot down? And if there's like a very high percentage that nothing really ever makes it, then I would be like, all right, well, maybe there's something here to that process.
Yeah, I do feel like, I mean, again, this is, Badlands Daily is, surface level. I try and go below the surface, but I've only got so much time to prep a show. So there probably is well, I'm not going to say probably, there could be something that we're missing on this, that, some nuanced detail. But I mean, again, this is something that if you were to actually poll people on this, I believe this would probably be polling higher than the Save America Act. And that is, forcing Congress to pass a balanced budget. I don't think there's anybody out there that would be like, no, you know what? It's okay that our government just goes to the Federal Reserve and just asks them to print more money. What kind of idiot do you think that, again, that 211 vote to pass this amendment, resolution rather, is more indicative of how, ineffective and compromised our Congress actually is, even more so than the Save America Act.
Which is why it won't pass.
Exactly. Speaking of the Save America, let's go ahead and jump into that. And we'll start here with, I got 2 clips on this. Senator John Kennedy, who is trying to now get this as a reconciliation bill. Brilliant move. If he can pull this off, pretty brilliant move, because a reconciliation bill only requires 50% of the vote. However, it has to be related specifically to the budget.
Serious about passing. And I think we are, Mr. President. I know you are. We need to try to pass this legislation through reconciliation. Now, you know how reconciliation works, Mr. President. It means we can pass this bill with 50 Republican votes and the vice president to break the tie. That's how we pass the one big, beautiful bill. I would hope to get some of my Democratic friends to support us, but we don't have to have them. That's harder than I describe because, as you know, Mr. President, there are parameters on reconciliation. Anything you propose through reconciliation has to be paid for. We can find the money to pay for it. And anything you pass through reconciliation has to conform with the contours of the Budget Control Act. We call that giving a provision a bird bath. And our parliamentarian decides what passes muster under the Budget Control Act and what doesn't. Now, we've got a lot of smart lawyers in the United States Senate. Every single one of them thinks they're Oliver Wendell Scalia. But we've got a lot of other smart lawyers in America. Here's what I'm getting at. We have yet to try going to these smart lawyers, some in the Senate and some, believe it or not in the Senate, and saying, craft us a SAVE Act that will pass muster under the Budget Control Act and can be blessed by the parliamentarian. And some of my colleagues, those Oliver Wendell Scalia types, they say, Kennedy, you know, that you'll never be able to do that. They don't know. I've been here 10 years. I've seen things pass muster, survive a bird bath that I didn't think had a hope in hell. And I've seen provisions pass the parliamentarians' judgment under a bird bath that I thought, I've seen them not pass that I thought were slam dunks. You don't know till you try. And we haven't tried. And if this bill is as important as everybody says it is, and I think it is, because we're not just talking about voting, we're talking about the confidence, the trust of the American people in our elections. If this bill is as important as we say it is, we should try it through reconciliation.
Okay, so I'm with Senator Kennedy on this one. Although normally I'm not a big fan of reconciliation bills, because normally, like he said, you take these bills that wouldn't otherwise pass and you try and force them through. And of course, a lot of times these are bills that we don't particularly care for. I think somebody in the chat had said Obamacare passed through reconciliation. This is a bill that, again, 83+% approval amongst the people. You got to make the effort. And before I hand it over to you, is he selling art? Like, what's the purpose of that photo there?
Dude, I don't know. Unless unless he knows that, meme wars are in effect, and he's just like, I got to provide something for that. I have no idea. I don't know what the clip, what preceded it or what came after it, but there's a word that gets thrown around a lot. I was talking about this on my show a lot, the precipice, right? But it sure as hell feels like we're approaching that, man. Listen, everything he said, and I'm actually really glad he explained the things that have to be satisfied with it to do it through the reconciliation. So the way people that are watching that don't, completely understand all the nuances of all this stuff, be like, okay, I'm tracking here. So this way, if people come out later, other politicians say, oh, we can't do it because this, you already know. No, Like, we already know like what needs to be met. Like, don't be jiving us. You know what I mean? Next 6 weeks is gonna be wild, bro.
Yes, very, very. Let me play another clip here. You got Una Panuna Banca. We'll just get it out of the way. Una Panuna Banca, again, doubling down on using the FISA Act to pass the Save America Act.
Look, there's a number of Republicans in the House that will refuse to vote on any rule that has Senate legislation, meaning no Senate legislation will pass unless the Save America Act is something that the Senate will vote on. But look, Maria, as you are seeing now, you are seeing some of the more moderate Democrats getting squishy on this issue. And what I will say is that we actually, if we stick this on FISA, let's say that everything goes to hell in a handbasket in the Senate and we can't get anything done with the standing filibuster, then we can stick it on FISA. As you know, Maria, FISA is one of these must-pass pieces of legislation that the Senate would literally walk over broken glass in order to pass.
I mean, if that's not like, you got to give her credit where credit's due. That is an accurate representation of how the Senate actually works. A bill that has 83% approval that can't get passed, but they will walk over broken glass to ensure that they can spy on us. That is, I mean, that is our government in one concise statement right there.
How do we fix it?
I think there's going to be, if there aren't already.
Here's the thing. We're down to a remaining last few options.
Hey. Maybe sit rep tonight.
Well, no, the reason I say that is to reinforce the support for Trump. People may not like the way he's doing things right now, but if you go and look at his entire first administration and you look at what he's accomplished in these 13 months, has he given us any reason to doubt him? And in my opinion on that is absolutely no. So why start doubting him at, when we're in, you can't stand the heat, get your ass out the kitchen, right? We on a mission. Sorry, just a squirrel. But how do we expect as Americans? Because here's the thing, I think a lot of people are just really, the racist thing is the white privilege card. I think there's the American privilege card that we all have, and something that things have been pretty. There's been a lot of tension, right? And I think people are not recognizing for 250 years, and I would say the vast majority of that time, we've had a compromised government, right? At least 100 years, if people don't want to go all the way back to did we really win the revolution? But if we just go back 100 years, and do we think that we're going to solve 100-year plus problem of perfected corruption and not have things that are going to be uncomfortable, look nasty, sound controversial, play in the gray area of the Constitution and the law? Like, do people think that this is just going to be, oh, Trump's going to come in and save us and they're going to pass laws and all this is up? Like if you think that that's how this is going to play out, like, you've lost your damn mind. Trump is making moves and making comments and certain headlines to, thread the needle, man, because, he goes too much this way, chaos, right? He goes too much this way, civil war. He goes too much this way, the party falls back into hands of the deep state forever. If he doesn't thread this needle through absolute perfection, we're cooked. And all the dude's asking for is give me some loyalty here and walk me through this. But there's so many, privileged Americans, well, I don't trust the government. Neither do I. I don't consider Trump government. Granted, I get it. He holds the office of the president, but the dude's not a cookie cutter president. And he's given us proof on that. I just don't understand why people think that he's going to solve the problem doing the maneuvers of the past when the maneuvers of the past is how we got here in the first place. Everything has to be unprecedented. And if it's unprecedented, there's going to be concern. But what other pathway is there? And I just don't think people are giving our president the loyalty and support that he fucking deserves.
So I think this is a fantastic conversation for us to have tonight on SitRep. And so for those that don't watch SitRep, tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern time, shameless plug for the show. But so there's a lot that we're going to expand today. On SitRep will definitely be an expansion of Badlands Daily, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to kind of limit the conversation here to expand upon it much greater there, right? This is surface level and a little bit below. We'll go much deeper tonight. But I do want to talk about, that sounded really bad. I do
just so people know. I mean, but that is a news story, right?
What's that?
Like the what I will call the attempted subversion of the president. Like, that's a news story nobody's talking about.
Oh yeah. No. We'll get it. We'll get into that for sure. But I'm going to read our founding document. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure those rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers, their just powers, from the consent of the governed, a republican form of government, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. I don't think an 83% approval is light and transient. $40 trillion in debt is light and transient. Okay, these are very heavy issues, detrimental issues, nation-ending issues. It says, and accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed, meaning we're too fucking comfortable. As long as we have our iPhones and our distractions, we're okay. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. So we'll get into that tonight, and I think we'll probably reread that tonight on SitRep.
One of, if not the most powerful thing that's ever been written on paper for us. And if you tune into SitRep tonight, I will tell you how the deep state knew it and got ahead of it before we did.
All right, this is going to be a fantastic show. All right, let's move on. I just wanted to read that to kind of set up SitRep tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. Be there, be square. Bill Malugin put this out on X. Fox News had obtained a letter to the White House sent to 2 GOP senators explaining some of the concessions that they are offering Democrats on Department of Homeland Security reforms, including officers conducting immigration enforcement will clearly wear visible ID and provide it when asked. Use of body cams will be expanded. Video will be retained, and there will be increased congressional oversight. DHS will avoid operations at sensitive locations, except in extreme circumstances that have to do with public safety or national security, which is already current policy, it says. DHS won't deport citizens or arrest them unless they've committed an eligible crime. Also already what current policy is supposed to be. Nothing on unmasking or judicial warrants, which Democrats have been demanding. Per sources familiar with negotiations, both sides are still very far apart. So no, government is still shut down, apparently. I got nothing on that. I don't know where you stand on DHS. I don't want DHS to exist.
I absolutely want DHS to exist.
I know you do. You're my token normie.
There will be a day where I don't, but so long as the globalist deep state exists, we got to have a DHS.
Well, you can move those entities to other, like I still believe absolutely that we need Border Patrol, ICE, Coast Guard, all of those entities. But we don't need, I mean, why do we have FEMA? We have National Guards in every single state. We have federal appropriations. Why do we need FEMA? Why do we need
and reason being is, and again, the reason not being the way it's actually deployed, right? FEMA serves a very good and strategic purpose. It's just not used that way. It's just another money laundering entity. I mean, we saw what happened with the storms. But again, that's like saying, well, firearms kill people, so let's get rid of the Second Amendment. Hell no. It's not the organization. It's the people that manage it, run it, and its deployment. But there are going to be times where some states struggle, and there's going to be natural disasters. And an institution like FEMA is great if utilized the correct way. It's just and this is broad because this goes to a lot of our institutions, including our country itself, is nothing's being used the way it's supposed to. Everything's been weaponized to exploit the taxpayer, to put money in the coffers of and name it, right? Everybody but Americans. And
you can't fix that. That's the problem. You can't fix that. No,
you absolutely can. That's
because when you give away power, you never will get it back. And we gave away so much power with the Patriot Act, you can't reel it back in.
I disagree with that. I actually think that that's become the lazy excuse for us not to venture off in things like that. The problem is, and it goes down to the very small, like the foundation of these institutions, nepotism in these jobs, people just hiring people because they're family, people hiring people because of relationships. You get things into a situation where there's no DI, but you're hiring quality candidates. And you actually have, kind of what we're talking about at the beginning of this show, balanced budgets, things that are fully transparent, not hidden things here and hidden things there. Or, hey, this is, we're giving $1 million to this American company because they're American. But then that American company is contracting out to non-American workers because that's what's happening all around our country right now.
Yes.
Well, if you have auditing, accounting, and then legitimate consequence for the people that violate that, whether it be fine or imprisonment, then things are fixed.
And who's going to give them legitimate consequence? The same people that are benefiting from this?
Well, that's the thing, is this entire institution all has to be fixed altogether.
Yeah.
We can't just, we'll do judicial today, we'll do legislative here. No, it all has to be fixed at the same time. And the easiest way to do that is to shrink it massively.
Like you mean abolishing DHS and splintering it into other organizations?
It doesn't have to be as big as it is. We'd have an agreement there. I absolutely don't think that it needs to be as big as it is. And to be honest, I think FEMA should be much smaller with regional management teams that are like, hey, here you are working with these sheriff's departments, you're working with these police departments. So this way there's always an ongoing relationship, because part of that would identify risks before they ever even happen. And then you could be like, hey, we're gonna have to allocate here because California, Mr. President, is not dealing with their brush fire issues over here. They're not dealing with their homeless crisis, which is going to lead to probably some type of epidemic. If you actually had DHS in a smaller institution with very specific missions, it would be something that's successful. Hire me, President.
So you're let's put this in a perspective we can both relate to, and that's military triage. Guy hits an IED, blows up. His legs are, hanging on by a thread, right? You look at it and you say, hey, I need to stop the bleeding. I need to get the muscle back attached to the bone. I need to do all this stuff, and the leg will be just fine after that. But in reality, that's impossible. So you cut the legs off and you save the body as a whole. That's where we're at with and not just DHS. All of the bureaucracies are like this. And if you haven't read Neil Gorsuch Overruled, he outlines it. I mean, you cannot argue that the bureaucracy within this country is salvageable after reading that book. You cannot. It is not salvageable. Can you, and again, this is the long train of usurpations, right? Throw it off and start all over, start anew. And it begins with clean elections, first and foremost. You're never going to be able to fix anything in any form or fashion like you want without clean elections, period.
If you abolish
accountability.
If you abolish our Constitution, the United States of America will never exist again.
No, I didn't say abolish our Constitution.
Well,
I said abolish the bureaucracies.
But that if you throw it all away, which is our government, to start anew, our Constitution's included with that.
No, you could. Well, so again, this is a much longer conversation, and I've said this before. But Jefferson himself, you know, he wasn't the father of the Constitution like Madison was, but he was intimately involved. Said that a Constitution should not last more than 19 years. Those are Thomas Jefferson's words.
Yeah,
Constitution should not last more than 19 years. We're coming on 250.
As brilliant as he was, he still didn't have the foresight of what this experiment would look like.
I think he had more foresight.
I don't think so.
He saw when you look at the Second Amendment, and you know, from naval ships that, you know, traverse the Atlantic Ocean in 3 months to F-15s that can do it in 3 hours or 2 hours. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. I'm a First Amendment absolutist, but and this, you know, this could be counter to Thomas Jefferson's argument, because if we were renewing the Constitution every 19 years, the Second Amendment would look a hell of a lot different, and none of us absolutists would like it. But there are other things that we also didn't anticipate, and we can go to, and we're going way off base here, but we could go to representation and the number. Me and Ash talked about this yesterday. You know, right now we have 750,000 people per representative. That's never how our Constitution was intended to be. George Washington presided over the Constitutional Convention. There's only one thing that he chimed in on, and that was the number of people per representative. They wanted to make it 40,000, and I think it was Washington that came in and said, no, make it 35,000. That's the only thing. Other than that, he just presided over it as the referee. But if I'll let you respond to that, and then we got to move on.
We could save it. We could save it for tonight.
Maybe are you doing the Guard exclusive live stream?
I think so.
This would be a great conversation with, I mean, you, me, Chris Paul, John Drake, Ash. We could get.
I don't mind pissing everybody off again.
If you have,
if people don't understand my position, I'll be very clear. I support this president. I am MAGA hardcore, and I will not give up on them. I like people like Cash and Bondi and all these people? Yeah. But the only one that I trust is my president. And that's not cult mentality. That's an educated decision based off one prior term and 13 months of absolute success in the face of people that are just trying to rug pull them, subvert them, kill them, and impeach them.
Yeah, but one thing has nothing to do with the other.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not.
How does it not?
How does reforming our bureaucratic state?
Oh, no. Okay. No, I'm not. No,
Oh.
these. Yeah, this. I was just saying, because you brought up the virtual tickets. No, just being very specific. If people don't know my position, that's my position.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick break, reset here. We'll get back into the actual news, man. The GART exclusive live stream today at 2 p.m. Eastern time is going to be fire, and SITREP is going to be fire. These are going to be some fantastic conversations. So let's talk about GART real quick.
Patriots, the fight for truth doesn't stop at the screen. It's hitting the road again. Badlands Media is rolling into Nashville on April 9th through 12th for the next stop on the Great American Restoration Tour. Join your favorite Badlands hosts and like-minded Americans for 3 powerful days. Packed with unfiltered discussions, deep dive panels, and real debate. Hear the raw truth, ask the tough questions. No topic too hot, no question too bold. GART is where our community comes alive. Tickets are on sale now at badlandsmedia.tv/GART, where you can also grab a virtual pass and watch from home. Join us to question narratives and fight for America's future. Nashville is calling. The restoration continues. Get your passes today. See you in Music City.
All right.
So much fun.
GART Nashville is going to be fantastic, guys. Virtual tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events. And like we said, there's a exclusive live stream today, 2 p.m. Eastern time. You will get an email at about 1 p.m. Eastern. They'll email out the link to everybody that has a virtual or in-person ticket. And then you tune into that. We usually get a whole slew of Badlanders on there for those events. And they're a lot of fun. All right, let's All right. I know I'm going to regret this, but let's get into geopolitics now. Because we're definitely going to hash this out tonight on SitRep as well. Because I know we are on opposite ends of the spectrum here, but I think there's some middle ground. But we'll start first here with this story before we get into the Iran stuff. China, from Reuters, China makes energy security a reunification offer to Taiwan amid Middle East war. This to me sounds like the Monroe Doctrine, the Donroe Doctrine, applying over in the Pacific here with Asia. China offered what it said would be energy stability to Taiwan if it agreed to Beijing's rule, part of a campaign to convince the island of the benefits of quote unquote reunification. Taiwan, which had received a third of its liquid natural gas from Qatar and no energy from China, has said that it has secured alternative supplies for the months ahead, including from the United States. Chen Binhua, a spokesperson for China's Taiwan Affairs Office, says, quote, "We are willing to provide Taiwan compatriots with stable and reliable energy and resource security so that they may live better lives." Taiwan President Lai Ching-te reiterated that energy supplies for this month and next are assured, and from June, more U.S. gas will be imported. Now, seeing that the more U.S. gas will be imported, and in June, there's another little piece of information I got over the weekend that I think June is going to be a spicy month in this whole thing. And I'll just leave that at that. I mean, it's nothing like, crazy, but to me, this is more of the Monroe Doctrine, the Donroe Doctrine. This is Xi understanding the kind of the vulnerability that Taiwan is facing right now, given the uncertainty of any of the exports. We'll get into the LNG attack yesterday. And China's trying to take advantage of that while at the same time, we've got everything under control. Well, until you don't. I'm curious to get your take on that.
Well, I love this conversation because I've been screaming from the mountaintops that what we see going on around the world is all about energy. And the reason that it's all about energy is because it's really all about artificial intelligence. That's what this is all about in my perspective. And China's trying to make a move because Trump's choking them out, bro.
I don't think he's choking them out, though. I think this is intentional. I think this is part of the regional spheres of influence. This is the same as us negotiating now with Cuba and with Venezuela. It's the same concept there.
This is 100% choking them out. Here's the thing is when Trump went after Venezuela, and I was telling people, look at how much oil that China gets from Venezuela. And people went, well, no, the devil's Google. No, look at the shell companies. Like, you got to actually do a little bit of work into this one. And once you expand it through the shell companies, you're like, damn, they were getting a lot of discounted oil.
Yeah.
What was the next country? Iran. Trump goes over there. And I mean, Trump has known about this from the beginning. And I'd like to say, we could talk about this on SitRep because there's a whole entire chessboard that he has laid out that all makes perfect sense now. But, and people say, well, yeah, but you don't need oil and gas for AI. And that's a true statement. If
you run nuclear.
But the thing is to build those components to go nuclear, you're going to need oil and gas. And so what you're seeing here by Trump, making, they're having to pay full price on these things. It's throwing off how they got to do these things. There's a reason they stopped all their exports. This is an energy war. And China, the deep state China, right? Because there is, I do believe in a sovereign alliance, just so people understand my position there too. However, China is still fighting a deep state. That deep state is known as the CCP. They know what Trump's doing, and they're trying to do the same thing now by saying, hey, yo, Taiwan, let's make a deal here. We can help you. You don't have to worry about us nuking you and putting all these ships around your island, and you'll prosper again. You just got to, come under our rule, follow some rules, and we'll promise all this stuff. But again, what was Taiwan's response? Oh, no, Trump already took care of this with us. Like, we're good. Again, why you should have confidence in President Trump? Because he is so many chess moves ahead of the deep state right now.
Okay, so I think that you are, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that this is a move to take away China's ability to get cheap oil. We talked about this, I think maybe last week or the week before, where I was saying, in agreement with you that China was receiving oil at a 20% discount oftentimes. And, I compared that with our own economy here in the United States. And if we were getting oil at a 20% discount over fair market value, what the price per barrel was at the time, what that would do for our economy.
Some people have even argued that the percentage is higher than that.
Yeah, so what you see published is usually about $10 to $12 per barrel, and when it's trading around 50-55 a barrel, now it's well up over 100. I think
change our economy fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that's why China has been able to eat our lunch. So I do agree with you that this is a chokeout method. But reaching out to Taiwan like that, let's see what happens. But I would not be totally surprised if there is somehow some sort of a renege from the United States on that deal with Taiwan to supply the natural gas, or if there's a push for Taiwan to. I don't know. But I could see it going either way. China reaching out to them, the spheres of influence would make more sense under the Monroe Doctrine. But then again, what's going on in Iran right now is, in my opinion, I know you disagree with me, counter to that. At least if it prolongs beyond just the next few weeks or months.
It's not unthinkable. Do I think Taiwan will ever concede to being under China's rule? I don't think that happens. But maybe. Because the threat is right, the war with China and Taiwan, like that's the threat. And if you did come to some type of agreement, then all of a sudden that fear of that war dissipates. I'm good with you on that. But maybe instead of them, maybe it's a treaty. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's a different type of relationship where, maybe the United States doesn't have to be involved with it, and the world is like, all right, this is good. But I think if Taiwan was to concede to China, that would be looked at as, okay, this is a move that's gonna make China look stronger, because it would be like there's nobody be able to argue that, and it's going to create more tension on Trump let them take it. Trump said he would protect Taiwan, and obviously Taiwan didn't feel protected, so they conceded to China. That's the way that narrative would get spun, and I don't see that happening under Trump.
Yeah, but we don't even. We recognize Taiwan as a part of China officially. So does just about every country out there. I think there's like 4 that don't recognize Taiwan as a part of China.
If I remember, we have recognized Taiwan too. Like, there's been some confusion on this back and forth.
Hold on, let me.
Yeah, I think we have. We did. I think there was even a president that wrote a letter that acknowledged Taiwan as its own country.
Hold on. I remember the Joe Biden slip up. Remember when they corrected him on air? 60 Minutes?
I don't remember that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they corrected him. They're like, will the U.S. defend Taiwan if China attacks? And Biden said yes. And then, like, in the next segment, there's a voiceover, and they're like, the White House tells us that is not the policy of the United States that they would defend Taiwan. And
I do remember that now.
And I was like, how can this be? I thought I had that one on my soundboard, but maybe not. I thought I did. No, I don't. No, the United States does not formally recognize Taiwan as a sovereign nation. The one China policy the U.S. acknowledges but does not fully endorse China's claim that Taiwan is a part of one China. It stems from diplomatic normalization by the People's Republic in 1979, when the U.S. switched recognition from Taipei to Beijing. The U.S. does not have official diplomatic relations with Taiwan. There is no U.S. embassy in Taiwan. Instead, there's a de facto embassy called the American Institute in Taiwan, which sounds very CIA, by the way.
Yes,
the American Institute of Taiwan in Taiwan.
I was like, that screams Gladio, bro.
Yeah. The U.S. sells Taiwan weapons under the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979, maintains strong economic and political ties, supports Taiwan's self-defense capability, and engages in high-level visits. Remember when Pelosi went over there? The U.S. intentionally keeps its position unclear on whether it would defend Taiwan militarily. This is meant to deter China and deter from invading, and deter Taiwan from declaring formal independence. So that is pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Okay, let's move over to the Iran thing. Before we do that, though, we do have to hit one more sponsor, Actually, let's hit 2 and then we can bring the show home. We're at the halfway mark, right? We're at the halfway mark. So let's talk about Rumble Wallet, a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about now behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons that we use Rumble. They made it a way to super chat creators so that everybody gets paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% of fees when you tip your creators that you like to listen to. This method takes none. That's right. The platform takes 0 fees, no tax on tips. I keep nearly 100%. We get to keep nearly 100% of what you send. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip will show up directly as a Rumble chat, which we will always do our best to read. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips so your favorite creators to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com or you can download the app directly from the App Store. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. Love everything Rumble's doing, man. They've got our backs, from the free speech to that, that kind of stuff there.
That's the truth right there.
I mean, Rumble's fantastic. And then let's also talk about our friends over at Lean. Yep, everybody is talking about those weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering blood sugar and reducing appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight, but you're not interested in painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings, so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors over at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. Let's get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping so that you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit takelean.com and enter promo code Badlands for your discount. Again, that's promo code Badlands at takelean.com. All right, and let's go ahead and jump into the Iran news, and this is going to be interesting. So the BBC reporting that Iran's intelligence minister, Esmail Khatib, was killed in an airstrike. This is not necessarily a bad thing. Masoud Pezeshkian said that, quote-unquote, cowardly assassination had left Iran in, quote, deep mourning after Israel said on Wednesday it had killed Khatib in an airstrike. It comes days after Israel announced that it had killed Iran's top security official, Ali Larijani, and head of paramilitary Basij Force, Gholam Soleimani, in strikes. Multiple senior Iranian officials and commanders have been killed in efforts by Israel and the U.S. to weaken the regime's leadership. Pezeshkian said that, quote, he was certain their path will continue more steadfastly now than before, referring to Iran pushing on in this war. The only thing I'll let you start on this one, because, I generally look at this kind of thing as like, I don't know, it's kind of like shooting your lieutenants on the battlefield in the American Revolution. You don't do that, that like, and I mean, it's stupid. I always look at the American Revolution. I'm like, why would you not kill the officers? You kill the officers and the troops have nobody to lead them. But that was, gentleman war back then. I guess it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, we still
definitely
line up in lines and march at each other too, bro. Like,
so, but yeah. I will say this: the guy that they're talking about here, Khatib, was actually he was documented a while back. When was this? I think this was earlier this year. When was this? Eli David put this out. Khatib, the regime's minister of intelligence, in a recent interview, quote, our greatest achievement is arresting all Mossad agents in Iran who were responsible for the eliminations here. And of course, they're bragging about that. I don't think it's eliminating Mossad from your government is not a bad thing when you're an adversary and you have spies within your government. But again,
listen, you make comments like you're going to take out the U.S., you're going to end up in a box.
Well,
he ended up in a box.
I'm with you on that. You also have a lot of influence from people within that administration. If we were infiltrated by a foreign intelligence, which we are,
We are. We are.
I know we are. And if there wasn't more, mutually assured destruction implications of attacks against either China or Russia for, having spies eliminating the spies within our government and in our country, Cuban spies, Venezuela, all throughout there. I don't look at that as a bad thing. I don't know, but killing him, I'm okay with it. We'll just see what happens from there. I don't have a take one way or the other.
Eradicate the entire IRGC and all the replacements. Make them pink miss. Trump and them know who's good to go into power. There's the civilian government there has already communicated that with them, and anybody outside that scope is going to turn into silly putty.
Agreed. We talked about that, and I just think it's going to be surprising who Trump ends up settling on.
That never gets old. Frederick Leathers in the chat says cardboard box for cardboard. Ruthless. Love this audience.
Well, he's not the Ayatollah.
No, but still funny though.
But it is funny. It is funny. You know what I thought was funny is well, never mind. President Trump, to what you were just saying right there, President Trump truthed this out yesterday. There it is. There it is. I wonder what would happen if we quote unquote finished off what's left of the Iran terror state and let the countries that use the Strait of Hormuz, that we don't use it, be responsible for the so-called strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast, President DJT. I thought that was interesting that he calls it the Iranian terror state because, last week he said we have the formula, right? We have the Venezuelan formula. It worked in Venezuela and it's going to work in Iran. We'll use it in Cuba as well. I think we're going to be surprised by who, we end up agreeing like this is the guy, Delcy Rodriguez kind of formula over there, whether it's going to be Khamenei's son, whether it's going to be Pezeshkian, whoever. I don't think it's going to be Pahlavi. I think that I haven't even heard his name all week, to be honest with you. So
the last time I heard on Pahlavi from Trump, he pretty much shot that down. There were some people that entertained it as bring them in temporarily while they do the elections. I wouldn't have issue with that so much because you satisfy a lot of people like that. It's more symbolism than anything, and he's still not going to get the position because he doesn't have Trump's endorsement for that. But I do agree with you. I think we're going to be kind of shocked at who Trump walks away with saying, yeah, we're good with him. I do think that that's going to surprise us.
Yeah, I do too. Well, maybe surprise some of us. I said after his Doral press conference last week, I said that I think it's going to be Khamenei. I think it's going to be, if he's alive. That's the other big stipulation on that. But if he's not alive, I think it could be Pezeshkian. But we'll see. Now let's get into the Joe Kent story here. And again,
it's going to have to be someone that everybody in the area signs off on.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't know if you saw the update last night. It was last night, this morning. But the surrounding Middle East nations are tightening up their boots, polishing their weapons.
We'll get into that. Let's jump into this here. So the Joe Kent story, and again, part of Sit Rep tonight, we'll go through some of the clips from the Tucker interview. I don't know if we've got the is the Levin interview set up yet and finalized?
I do not know.
Okay. So, after Joe Kent leaves DNI counterterrorism, this story breaks from Semaphore, exclusive. All the reporting you're seeing on this is originating from this story right here. FBI investigates intelligence aide who resigned over war. It says the investigation into former National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent is focused on allegations that he improperly shared classified information for people with direct knowledge of the investigation, told Semaphore. The investigation predates Kent's departure, the four people said. One of them described it as being months long. Trump aides and allies denounced Kent as a leaker immediately after his resignation became public. The FBI and the White House declined to comment. Kent did not immediately respond for comment. I see people melting down over this. You're one of them.
I'm not melting down.
Well, not melting down, but
he is a piece of shit.
He's not a piece of shit.
I will make the case for why he's not, but continue.
No. We'll make that case on Sit Rep for sure. We're gonna come to blows on Sit Rep tonight. No, I don't think we will, but I don't think he's a piece of shit. I think he is. This is
So if
intentional.
someone lies to you, they're not a piece of shit.
No, I think this is designed. I think this is absolutely by design.
Again, if that's the case, then the people that have created this design, this psychological operation, have already formulated a response that's expected, which means all we have to do is respond honestly. I think where we get ourselves into trouble is when we say, well, all right, this is fake, so not going to get upset about it. I think we should entertain and have the contingency for, hey, maybe this is a way of bringing exposure out there. However, we don't know that. What we do know is this is what we're seeing here, and this entails a response. And the facts are, just a few months ago, the dude was talking about the threat assessment that Iran represented. It goes back a long way. And then all of a sudden it's, oh, they're not. And the fact is we all have intelligence that's open source that articulates the threat that Iran represented. They literally put out a video saying, we'll sink the Gerald Ford. We literally have the FBI and HSI, which a lot of you guys want to get rid of, that have already documented Iran proxies inside the interior of the United States. How in the world can Kent, being counterterrorism, come out and say, Iran is not an imminent threat? And notice how they changed it to imminent nuclear threat, because they were getting shit on just by saying imminent threat because of the argument I just presented. And I'll say, hey, if you want to say they're not an imminent nuclear threat, then okay, I'll roll with that one. But don't say they're not an imminent threat. And
do you know how many? Good.
And on top of that, when people say, well, you know what, this is for Israel, really? Everyone that says it's for Israel, I always ask them the question, how many times did Iran attack American military and U.S. vessels during Biden's administration? And nobody ever knows. And the answer to that is almost 400. Through their proxies of the Houthis.
Through proxies.
Well, that doesn't change anything. If we're gonna, I mean, if we're gonna apply through proxy doesn't count, well then the entire chessboard changes for everybody. There's
so can we start tallying up our proxies? CIA backed proxies.
100%. But none of those were done under Trump.
Oh no, I'm not saying, I'm not blaming.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is I'm not saying that our hands are clean. We know that the bankers in the deep state have controlled both sides of the war since forever.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, and like I'll get a lot of pushback from some friends. Well, now you support the government, now you support the FBI. At some point, you do if you want to institute change. And when you're in that position, or oh, you're changing colors because now it's a Trump organization. Yeah. What I've given the FBI trust under Biden's administration, I think the easy answer to that is no. Everybody knows why. Well, am I gonna afford people like Bongino and Cash Patel and all those? Well, not Bongino more, he left, but cashing them with the FBI? Yes. You got to, if we vote for Trump and Trump puts these people into position, then we have to allow them time to see, hey, are they what we finally expect these institutions to be? And guess what? The FBI has done an outstanding job. I don't care what anybody says. They have done an outstanding job.
I agree with that, by the way.
And so it comes down to is there is an imminent threat by Iran. Now, if you want to go into a deeper rabbit hole on who's really pulling the strings of Iran, I agree with that. 100%, I'm not going to disagree with that. But you can't come out and make the statement that Kent's saying that Iran's not a threat because you know that, well, there are strings that pull here and it goes here and not articulate that conversation. No, that's subversion. 100% that's subversion. And what he did to the president is he's been out of the intel briefs for a long time. That's already been reported on like that before he even walked away, people had already been talking about that. And so for him to come out, no, this is what we know in the military and in law enforcement is resigning in lieu of termination. And he's trying to save face and he's trying to capitalize on a movement that's already been weaponized against Trump.
I disagree. And here's why. And again, I'm not trying to take a side one way or the other here. I'm just looking at the context clues that are being dropped, and there are way too many coincidentals that surround this resignation by Kent. And I'll unpack a few. And I think that a lot of this, I think obviously there's an exposure op for the media on this.
What do you think told Tucker the CIA was looking at his texts?
Well, you think it was Joe Kent?
Fuck yeah, I do. And you know why? Because Joe Kent said, "Hey,
you're presuming." You're presuming
100%
that
this is
not
speculation.
CIA.
100% that this is speculation. Well, let's not forget he was CIA.
Well, his dad was, and he's alleged. A lot of people believe he is. I'm among them. That he has at least some.
No, I actually think it's open source info. That I remember when he was running.
He said he wanted to be in the Putin interview.
Double check that while I say this, because if I remember correctly, when he was running, because a lot of people supported him, this was one of the things that people were saying, like, oh yeah, he has this knowledge because he was a part of the CIA. Maybe he was a contractor for the CIA, but he did do work with the CIA. But like I said, I don't want to say that 100%. So if you can look that up, but at the end of the day,
it says Tucker Carlson has not acknowledged being a part of the CIA. Instead, multiple sources.
No, not Tucker Carlson. I'm talking about Joe.
Oh yeah, Ken was a contractor. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're talking about.
You were talking about Tucker Carlson.
No. Yes, Tucker Carlson's dad was. He wanted to be. Yeah, I agree with you that. No, Joe Kent was CIA. I had to remind the colonel about that because she's out there giving him flowers, and I was like, I thought all the CIA was bad, so I had to take advantage of that. But here's the thing. Joe Kent knows that he's under investigation. He knows that he wasn't going into these briefings, and his connects told him, "Hey, bro, our peeps are looking at you." Joe Kent, and again, this is speculation, right? This is my game theory here. Joe Kent's the one that told Tucker, "Hey, they have our conversation."
I don't know. Let me lay out all the coincidences here. Again, I'm not going one way or the other on this. I'm just laying out all the stuff. You've got everybody freaking out about this. New intelligence officials tells the Daily Weimar that it's true that Joe Kent was part of the planning of the Iran war, wasn't part of the planning of the Iran war or briefings on the war. It is not true that DNI's Gabbard was asked by the White House to fire Kent, sources say. If she had been asked to do so, she would have fired him. You've got Aisa Hasni saying senior administration officials tell Fox News that Joe Kent was a known leaker and he was cut off of POTUS intelligence briefing months ago. The White House told DNI Gabbard he should be fired for suspected leaks, but she never did, which the other one just contradicted that. Has not been part of any Iran planning discussions or briefings at all. Jackie Heinrich says senior admin officials say Joe Kent was a known leaker, was cut out of POTUS intelligence briefings, has not been part of any Iran planning discussions or briefings at all. Officials say the White House has told DNI Gabbard Kent should be fired for suspected leaks, but never did. Again, so you're getting a lot of information here.
Well, here's just to add some context before you go to Tulsi's statement. Remember this. Like I said, we all like Tucker, right? So did I. Like, I would argue he's probably one of my favorites, if not the favorite, when it came to that. Obviously, that separation started to grow with some of the certain positions. But Tucker's always been accurate. It's one of the reasons we like him. And look at the last couple months. He put out information that was completely wrong. Why do you think that happened? And this is something I've been telling my audience for a while, that there are leak operations in place so that this administration can develop operational security before the big hammer drops, which is coming pretty soon, folks. I think Ken knows about it. My speculation, Kent got used. And Kent was giving this information to Tucker. And because it was specific and they knew this was a setup. This was a trap. They knew he was leaking. They gave him the information that they knew that would get into Tucker's hand and some other people's, and that information was they were going to know this is exactly who it came from. And that's the investigation. Why do you think everybody's coming out right now? Oh my God, if they indict Joe Kent and Tucker, why not? All of a sudden, everybody calls for arrest, right? But just don't arrest the people we like because, these people are going against Israel. That's what this is all about. No, it's not. If you leak classified information that jeopardizes our military, that's treason. And if Trump did it, arrest him too. There is no excuse for that, regardless of how much we like these people. Treason's treason.
There's an argument to be made that the commander-in-chief cannot commit treason.
And I agree with that, but I was just trying to make a point. It doesn't matter who it comes from. But yes, I do agree with you.
Tulsi Gabbard put out, DNI Gabbard, Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president, commander-in-chief. As our commander-in-chief, he is responsible for determining what is and is not an imminent threat and whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops, the American people, and our country. The office of the DNI is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the president and commander-in-chief with the best information available to inform his decisions. After carefully reviewing all of the information before him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. That is one of the most safest statements I've ever seen. That's a safe statement. Now, when you again, I'm only going to unpack the context here. Again, I'm not going super deep on this show because it's just not what we do specifically on this show. But what did we hear yesterday from Just the News? And it was a rehash. You know, John, I was listening to John's show because he had a pretty good interview yesterday on Daily Herald, and he was saying this is a rehash. And John Solomon tends to do that when something's going to become pretty relevant. And he rehashed the CIA, the intelligence community, essentially, the intelligence community as a whole, using their own political partisan biases to misinform or at least choose not to inform the president of the United States about something in particular. In this case, the China interference in the 2020 election, right? In the buildup to it. And we know DNI Radcliffe came out and at the time, DNI, now CIA Director Radcliffe, but DNI Radcliffe came out and said, no, that's wrong. I'm with the dissent on this. I believe that China did try to meddle in our elections. They did try to interfere. That we now know about the fake IDs and everything else that came out from there. But yesterday we got the refresher that the intelligence community gives information to the president based on their own biases and not what's best for the country, not what's actually, truthful. And when I see, to me, if we were to put this into kind of the context of the 2020 intelligence community, Joe Kent would be the dissenting report on this, and I'll show you why. Do you remember Dan Caldwell?
I do.
0311 Marine, was in the Pentagon. He got kicked out of the Pentagon. Do you remember why he got kicked out of the Pentagon?
Allegedly for leaking information.
He was an alleged leaker. And why? This was back in April of 2025. And they kicked him out. And when he got kicked out of the Pentagon, who's the first person he went on to talk to?
I believe it was Tucker Carlson.
It was Tucker. It was a really good interview, too. I remember listening to it when I was on my way to the Lakeland Badlands meetup. So I think there's a lot of similarities between Kent and Caldwell. And
there's one huge similarity.
Well, are you talking about where Caldwell is now?
No, that's different. I'm talking about who they both went to first.
Oh, yeah, Tucker. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But so check this out. So Caldwell gets fired. He's an alleged leaker. He's strongly anti-Iran, and the other two guys, anti-Iran war. The other two guys that were there were also anti-Iran war. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. The guys that got fired with Caldwell. Check this out. Ousted Hegseth aide resurfaces an intel role as Iran war sparks internal strain. A former top advisor to War Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is ousted amid a high-profile leak investigation, has been hired to work under DNI Tulsi Gabbard. So Kent is out, the anti-war with Iran Kent, who was pro-war previously, by the way, and you said that earlier. He's out. He goes to Tucker. Caldwell comes in to DNI after getting, I guess he got his name cleared. It's almost like they put out these smears. Go ahead.
Or made a deal.
No, I don't think he made a deal. I think it was a smear. And I think what we're seeing now about this investigation into Kent is also a smear. But I think it's deliberate.
The distinct differences is you have one guy that had a position. You have another guy that had a position, shifted positions, and there's no intelligence or anything, events that happened to support that. That's a huge marker in psychological operations. when people, it's just like all of a sudden, let's say somebody likes Trump, and then on Friday and then Monday they're like completely anti-Trump. Now let's just say that weekend Trump came out and made a statement or signed an executive order, declined to sign one. Like there's an event that says like, yeah, okay, this would piss people off. Then Monday, someone not supporting them no more. That makes complete sense. You're like, oh, okay, there was an event, right? If there's an absence of information, human behavior doesn't just shift their positions. That there's no situation where something like that happens. None. We're not built that way.
Here is why. And again, all we can do is speculate, right? That's really all we can do. This is let me play this clip here. This is the only clip of the interview we're going to play here. We'll play more on SitRep tonight. We'll play some more on SitRep. I'll have Alpha clip whatever he wants from anywhere, and we'll make the cases here. But listen to this segment.
I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean, this would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
May I ask you to pause? Sure. And so I've heard people say that, and this just happened, but history has a way of getting rewritten in real time. And then you look back 10 or 15, 20, 25 years later, and no one seems to understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. Yeah. So I think it's important to stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced. And he was explaining as is his habit, in a thoughtful, precise way, why. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay, so that is his almost contemporaneous explanation, and it's not offhand. He reasons it out. He explains there's a logic chain there, and he says, we knew not that Iran was going to attack. He did not say that.
Right.
He said we knew that Israel was going to attack Iran, and in retaliation for those attacks by Israel against Iran, Iran might attack American forces. So the imminent threat that the Secretary of State is describing is not from Iran, it's from Israel.
Exactly. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who is in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who is in charge of when we decide to go to war or not? In this case, with what the Secretary described, and later on the President, later on the Speaker of the House, and the way the events played out, the Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events, meaning the Iranians would retaliate. Now, I think there's a potential there where we could have done several different things. We could have simply said to the Israelis, no, you will not. And if you do, then we will take something away from you. I think that it's fine that we offer defense to Israel, but when we're providing the means for their defense, we get to dictate the terms of when they go on the offensive. Otherwise, they stand to lose that relationship. And the Israelis felt emboldened that no matter what they did, no matter what situation they put us in, that they could go ahead and take this action, and we would just have to react.
Go ahead. I heard you. That's not true.
Well, they didn't. Well, here's the thing. Why didn't Tucker play the whole clip of what Rubio said? Because then it changes the context. It changes the context of that statement. They're both lying.
The interceptor missiles versus the production rates.
No, what I'm talking about.
Play the whole clip. Then pull it up.
That's what I was looking for, because I wanted to play it.
You played the whole clip here on Daily. I agree with the representation of what Rubio said right there. President Trump knew it. He came out later that day and said, no. If anything, we forced Israel's hand. He walked that back. And I think
and so did the Secretary of War. Rubio came out, reestablished what he said. So if Kent wants to come out as an intelligence officer, right? There's a higher expectation, his threshold. He understands these things. If he wants to make his decision on whether a nation state's an imminent threat and he wants to isolate it to one data point, he's the worst intelligence officer that's ever worked in this government. Every single, I know this down at the local level, and these guys get way more advanced training than I do. You do not come to a conclusion on one data set of information ever. That is suicide to make a bad call. You have to have a minimum of 3 data points. If you have 2, people are not going to want to go with your conclusion. He's choosing 1, and he's choosing an isolated portion of a statement that the Secretary of State made. That is not the way you come to a conclusion. I can understand if a civilian wants to use something like that, if just general podcasting people want to do that, but an intelligence officer, he knows better. We all do. That's part of our job. It's part of our training. He was removed from the intelligence briefings because he was leaking information. He saw what was coming down the pipeline, and he resigned, and he resigned in lieu of termination. No, listen, in that position, you're supposed to be in the intel briefings. If you're not, something's up. He's smart. This is the world that he's lived in for a very long time. He knows. He may not know to what level and what extent. And this part's not speculation. Like, I'll say this part is fact. He absolutely knew something was up. Now, the speculation is this is probably what led to him probing to his boys down at the CIA, or maybe they initiated it. But this is where he got that information, and that's why he's running to this point that he is. Again, if you're going to use that data point, this is what Secretary Rubio said in that isolated statement, then answer this to me, Joe Kent. Did the IRGC not say that they would destroy the Gerald Ford? Yes. Did the IRGC,
hold on, there's a stipulation to that.
I'm getting here. I'm getting there.
You got to, if you're going to,
I know where you're going. Well, because we're moving in on their territory.
Exactly.
So what happened before we moved on in their territory? Under Trump's administration and Biden's administration, they've been chanting since 2018, death to America. In their parliament, they got the American flag, burning it, death to America, death to America. Then we get into Biden's administration, 380-something missiles fired at our ships. You know what? I hear some fake Americans saying, well, how many sailors died? So we got to have a sailor die? Or a Marine die before? No, you fire a missile at us, you're going to get a response. Biden didn't. And when you know this, and I know this, when you don't create a consequence for the enemy, you embolden them. You increase their morale. They feel more confident. And that's why Trump came at them the way he did.
So the June 12th midnight hammer wasn't significant enough?
No, it was significant enough to address the threat of a nuclear weapon.
It was to take the boogeyman off the map, and then yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
That's why. Yes, it was. It was to eliminate the nuclear. Hold on, it was to eliminate the nuclear threat. That's why President Trump made Netanyahu first announce that Iran's nuclear program has been set back decades. Or I don't remember the exact words that he used. Trump came back behind that and said, yep, Operation Success. And then just a couple months later, Netanyahu starts with they have intercontinental ballistic missiles now, so we got to go back. And the Iran drums started beating again.
Forget Netanyahu. Because everybody wants to make it about Israel and ignore the other intelligence that exists. I'm not a Bibi fan. I don't want AIPAC in my government before people try to get it twisted. I'm just willing to be honest and not isolate myself, which I think a lot of my friends are doing, is it's just the people with the curly sideburns. I think that's a moronic take to have.
I do too. That's stupid.
So here's what other intelligence that we have. Operation Midnight Hammer decimated the nuclear facilities that we had there. The whole Top Gun Maverick, right? That was super cool. Probably a psyop as well, but it was cool. What did we see at the same time that happened? We had Chinese military cargo planes flying into the airspace of Iran, shut down their transponders, and then somewhere people argue between 8 to 18 hours are there, and then they're coming back. Why do we think they did that? Was the Chinese military sending in care packages? No, we know that Iran is a proxy of China. It's what it is. And so is there an assumption that China went in to remove the uranium and stuff that was there in the weapon system because that preceded the attack? That's intel nobody wants to talk about. it's my speculation that they knew the attack was coming, and I think they knew the attack was coming because of some of the sovereign alliance stuff. I think Trump said, hey, go in and get the uranium that's there, because we're going to allow them to have that in the future, not for weapons capabilities, but for this other stuff. But we're going to
agree on that. At least we agree on that, because a lot of people won't even agree on that.
No, like I said, it's just, I'm not pushing an agenda on it's this or it's this. I'm just talking about what does it look like on the big picture. And so that's why those Chinese planes went in there. That's why we didn't attack them during that window. And then as soon as the Chinese planes leave, a few hours later, we get the awesome Top Gun Maverick. And so that was to address I'll say the big boogeyman theory as far as the nuclear threat that existed. Yeah. But that doesn't get rid of the threat to the Hormuz Strait. That doesn't get rid of the threat to our ships, the civilian and military ones that are still traveling through there, whether it's the Red Sea or any of that other area. Like all the proxies of Iran still exist as a threat. That doesn't address the threat of Iran's proxy terrorists inside the interior of our country. Like this is documented, and Kent's not talking about it. When have you heard Tucker talk about the Muslim Brotherhood of the CCP? As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people, including some of my friends, that say, oh, that's a PSYOP. Really? Go look at all these mosques. Go look at
the Muslim Brotherhood's not a PSYOP, but it's a construct. It's a construct of our own IC.
Well, not just our own IC. The IC, the intelligence, all of them. Yeah. But here's the issue. I tell people, just like ISIS, did the intelligence communities create these entities? Yes. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that these entities didn't have organic fighters come and be a part of them? Absolutely not. Of course they did. So just because the intelligence communities created this monster doesn't mean that monster is only the responsibility of the intelligence community. No, it's still the responsibility of the factions that join them. In this case, that's the Muslim Brotherhood. These threats exist in the interior of our country right now. And you don't hear Candace Owens talking about it. You don't hear Jake Shields talking about it. You don't hear Ian Carroll talking about it. You don't hear Thomas Massey talking about it. You don't hear Tucker Carlson talking about it. All they want to talk about is AIPAC and the Jews. AIPAC and the Jews.
You hold on, because you realize the people that are talking about that are the same people that we've been absolutely vilifying for the last 10 years, the Lindsey Grahams of the world.
Well, you could say that on both sides. A lot of the arguments that I won't paint names, but a lot of the arguments my friends are posing right now are the same arguments that Nick Fuentes is putting out. Are we all going to say we're Nick Fuentes fans now? You're going to have people like Laura Loomer. She'll talk about the Muslim Brotherhood all day, but she won't identify the AIPAC threat. Why? Because she's pushing an agenda too.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is, just because there's sides that are going to capitalize on the information that's out there doesn't mean that information is not true. And that's why I'm trying to get people to understand that all this are threats. The CCP is a threat to the United States. The Muslim Brotherhood is a threat to the United States. Mossad and Israeli intelligence is a threat to the United States. And if we only focus on one, that's pushing an agenda, because then what's going to happen is America's going to be like, oh yeah, we need to get them out. So let's just like hypothetically here say that we finally got all Americans to realize that AIPAC needs to be FARA, and that the Israeli intelligence and Mossad has leveraged our government, and we're like, yes, we need them out, right? The dream that all the Groypers want, right? And it happens. Do you think we have American sovereignty? Here, let me tell you, folks. I'll land it right here and I'll give it to you, because this is the part that's important. No, we don't. Because since we didn't acknowledge that there was a threat with the CCP, and since we didn't acknowledge that there was a threat with the Muslim Brotherhood, when we create that vacuum by extracting the Jewish power into our government, those factions come in. And that's what these people want. They don't want American sovereignty. They want to remove one power so they can plug in their power. And the only defense we have against that is to make sure that the Americans are aware of every single threat that exists to us.
Okay, so now tie the Muslim Brotherhood into Iran, because the Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni entity. Iran is Shia. They do not get along.
So, I'm not saying the Muslim Brotherhood is tied to Iran.
Well, you're like, we're talking about the Iran conflict here, and you're like talking about, well, yeah, we could talk about the Muslim Brotherhood. We could also talk about the.
Wait, I mean, you have Houthis operatives inside the United States. Mm-hmm. You have Hezbollah operatives inside the United States. These are all proxies of Iran.
And Trump has said we've got eyes on all of them.
He has, and I believe that he didn't say all of them.
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
Well, he does at one point say all of them. He starts first time saying almost all of them, and then later on says, yeah, we've got eyes on all of them.
And here's the thing: the same people that are making you afraid of just the Jews are also telling you that Palantir is going to be the weapon that Trump uses to create tyranny. And let me give you guys a clue: Palantir is the software program that they're catching all these terrorists in our country with. Is Palantir a dangerous thing that can enslave us under the hands of the wrong government? Absolutely. Is there any other way? Is there any other way to catch the terrorists in our country without the use of Palantir? No. Was that threat brought into our country so they could deploy something like Palantir, so it could be like the Patriot Act that never goes away afterwards?
Exactly.
Probably did.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. We just literally got done talking about letting the reins off of something and never being able to rein it back in.
So the predicament that we're in is we don't use it, we don't catch them, and then they deploy the tactics that they want, which breaks out into chaos. Or we say, hey, this man that we voted in for president is a lot smarter than we think, and we got to let the dude cook.
Or we acknowledge that it's a psychological operation and there's a ton of fear mongering behind the whole radical Islamic terrorist, domestic terrorism here in the United States. I talked yesterday, last week, excuse me, the Jalo guy in Dearborn, Michigan, total FBI asset, handled by the FBI all the way through. We haven't had, and granted, I think we are going to
hold on. But the people that are in the congregation listening to them, are they all FBI assets?
What do you mean? What do you mean in the congregation listening to them?
So the argument that I get when I post some of these videos is that's a guy working for the feds. Probably is. I'm not gonna say it's not. Probably is.
He was a guy that wouldn't have the means otherwise to conduct what he was going to conduct unless the FBI was giving him. Have you read that story?
I think I've read the one you're talking about because I've been given 3 where they allege that and there's
they were handling the guy that sold him the gun.
Okay, then we're talking about a completely different one. I'm talking about the guy that's a minister, and this was in Dearborn.
No, this is the one that was a former National Guard. Got out when he saw he saw the Awlaki murder, which Barack Obama murdered him, whether he was a terrorist or not. He was a U.S. citizen. He had no due process under the law. Saw that, got radicalized, and then back in 2016, he went to go first off, he reached out to Islamic state representative who was actually FBI. The FBI guy said, "You want to participate in an attack?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Okay, can you donate $500 to the Islamic State?" He did so. Goes to an FBI bank account. He goes to go buy the firearm to do it. Goes into the gun store. They deny him because he doesn't have the paperwork. Comes back the next day, has all the paperwork. They sell him a completely different gun. The FBI blocked the gun, took the firing pin out essentially, or demilled the firing pin. And it was a setup. But anyways, my point is, and I want to get back to the story here because we could talk about this on SitRep all day. I do have a little bit more to get to. My point is getting back to the Joe Kent, Israel. This was my theory the day that this happened. The day on February 28th, I did my weekend review show on my own platform. And as I'm going through it, I said, I had an epiphany through it. I said, did Israel attack? Did they Leroy Jenkins this shit? Was the exact phrase that I used. Did they Leroy Jenkins this shit? Was my exact sentence. And the reason I believe that was because Kushner and Witkoff were meeting with Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran, in Oman. Oman is, typically the kind of the Switzerland of the Middle East, right? The neutral party of the Middle East. They were meeting there. Everybody came out of that meeting saying the talks were productive, but they weren't anywhere near adequate yet. They had a follow-up meeting arranged for Monday in Vienna. If you know President Trump and you give President Trump the benefit of the doubt, you look at all the circumstantials. And this is why when I read Joe Kent's letter, I said Joe Kent's letter, if you take out the fact that he resigned and says, I can in good faith participate in this, and you just read what Joe Kent wrote, you would be like I am in this. I'm a fence sitter on this. Admittedly, I'm a fence sitter. Because when you read Kent's letter, you can, without his personal influence, and you read, President Trump's track record on everything, on one hand, you can say, holy shit, this is totally fucked that he's doing this. On the other hand, you could say, the fact that he's doing this, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. You can go either way with that letter. You can look at it and say, I genuinely disagree with this war. I'm with, well, I'm not, you don't know Joe Kent's not going for it, but you could read that and be like, what is he doing? I'm off. I'm done. Or you could read this and be like, man, this guy has been so absolute in his resolve. He's been the cooling head in the room the whole entire time. He's been anti the Iraq war, the Afghan war, all of this. The fact that he's doing this now, there has to be something more that we don't know. I support this. You can go either way with that. Okay. So when you
if you don't have other information available to you, I would say yes. And I think that's where a lot of people are falling victim.
Here's the other information. Hold on, because here's the other information. President Trump is the deal maker, the art of the deal. What Israel did by attacking the Iranians, while we had active negotiations going on with the Iranians, scheduled negotiations. This is documented in American media and Russian, RT. That completely discredits President Trump in going to negotiations with other countries in the future. Because you're going to have other countries now. Hold on. You're going to have other countries now that go to sit at the table, and they're going to be like, well, I'm sitting at the table, but you might still go to war with us anyways, even if we have a favorable agreement, which Iran had conceded to 1.5% enriched uranium, which is what they need for civilian nuclear infrastructure. Now, so why would Israel jump the gun if they're on the brink of that deal to eliminate the 60% enriched uranium, which is not weapons grade? Also, it's perfectly within the non-proliferation agreement that they had to have 60%. There's no violation there. Why would you sabotage those negotiations at that point?
So here's what I'll say. First, two things. Yes, you would definitely risk negotiations with other countries during the window of that unfolding. But when you look at the long-term picture, 30 days out, 45 days out, no, there's absolutely no compromise with other countries, because other countries then realize, oh, I see the tactic that was deployed here. Here's the other thing. If we think that Israel did Leroy Jenkins, and then all of a sudden, within the span of just a few days, came up with the operation that was deployed, Midnight Hammer, to go after that, we're absolutely insane. That's an operation that was planned at length, and they've come out and said that as much.
But I think Midnight Hammer was the operation to stop the boogeyman in that region, to take away.
I agree with you on the below the surface war that's going on. Yes, do I believe that Israel wanted another endless war? Absolutely, I believe that. I'm there. We share that opinion. Does that mean that forced Trump to jump the gun the way Kent's saying and Tucker's saying? Absolutely fucking not. Because again, if you look at President Trump all the way to January of last year when he took office, some of the policies and executive orders that he made, he was already preemptively setting up the chessboard for everything that was coming down the pipeline. How do we know that Trump was going to move on Iran all along and it ain't got shit to do with Israel? By looking at the relationships that he built with the people surrounding Iran, looking at the relations, the weapons packages that he did with the countries in the Middle East there. He was creating this environment. I see, like, you have a question.
Yeah. Did you not hear his speech at Riyadh? He doesn't call him specifically Iran, but I mean, he goes full bore on a viable economic trade relationship with Iran, saying we don't care about what you do inside. You can't have nukes, but we don't care about your politics. We don't care what you do within your own sovereign borders. We can still have an economic deal with you. And that the CIA absolutely has been the one that has been manipulating that.
This is what those negotiations, what I believe, were truly about with Witkoff and Kushner. Witkoff and Kushner were the ones telling Trump, look, we want what you want. We can't obtain it if the IRGC exists.
No, I disagree with that, though. I think they were negotiating to end the.
It never would have happened. The civilian government would have never been the guys that we were actually talking to would never have been in the position to give Trump or America anything we want, because that's the IRGC control. There's a reason Trump hasn't killed anyone from the civilian government. All the targets have been IRGC. All of them. Not one civilian government member has been targeted. Why? Because these are the guys that we were actually negotiating with. because these are the guys that are going to help facilitate the way this country is going to come around. And what you have been, and I think you said we talked about it on SITREP, but now you have, Saudi Arabia and Qatar and these other ones saying, hey, we're willing to come in, which I told my audience was going to happen already. I said, and you're going to have Tucker and these guys try to sell it as, oh, Trump's taking a loss. When no, this was the way it was always designed to play out.
All right.
Now,
So
now there is a component here with Israel wanting to force a fight. And I actually talked about this with Ghost on Sunday, where I said, Israel needs this war. They need it, and the people that are in position to replace Bibi, come, I think it's October, November, when they do their elections, they're more pro-war than this guy is. So it's not a question of, if it will happen, it's when. And so if you have it happen under Bibi and there's some trading and deals being made between Trump and Bibi, maybe it's there. I that part I don't know.
So you said earlier you need 3 data points. Okay, so you've got what the deals that were being negotiated between Witkoff, Kushner, Arakchi, the Omanis, the continuation of that, the scheduling of the negotiations on the Monday when they attacked on Saturday. Meeting was on Thursday night, Thursday afternoon. Attack was on Saturday. There was a planned meeting for Monday. Okay, you've got Joe Kent coming out and saying that Israel attacked early. You've got Rubio coming out and saying Israel attacked early, and then walking it back.
Well, hold on, because you're blending data points from two different operations.
No, Kent. Well, go with the Rubio. Ignore the Kent. I'm saying I agree with Kent. Here are the data points. You've got the art of the deal, the meeting between Witkoff and Kushner. You've got Rubio saying what he said. Kent says Hegseth said it as well. I don't know that Hegseth did it. I do know that Hegseth said Israel has their objectives in this war. We have our objectives. They don't necessarily mean that we're coordinating on them, which could be the allusion to that, that this attack was early. But this is the biggest data point of all. And the fact that this happens right as we have the Joe Kent, the Dan Caldwell to the DNI, to kind of rehash that whole concept of making up a leak investigation as somebody walks away because they're anti-war. You have Kent walking away anti-war, and the same leak accusations arise with him. But hey, look at Dan Caldwell. He's at DNI now. He must have passed, polygraphs and everything else to get that position. I think that's the signal right there. But here is the biggest signal of all. President Trump on Truth. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. You stop that right there, and that is a damning statement. And that aligns with what we saw originally.
That was made after Joe Kent came out and did all this stuff.
Exactly. Then we read on. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any part of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help of the consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. Do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is attacked again, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Israel went rogue.
Listen, that we knew that this was coming. But the point being is it's not a data point for Joe Kent. Because Joe Kent had a data point early on. Because remember, the timing of his resignation is important. If he had issue with Operation Fury and that Israel led that attack, let's stipulate and be like, okay, let's back off that. Israel's calling the shots. However, something else happened. They sent another what you call strike force. I don't know I can't remember what the proper term is for deployment of jets, but they sent another strike package there. And what does Trump do? Gets on the horn, says, no, you will turn around and you will not do it. And they listened and they turned around. Is that a data point that Joe Kent is going to ignore? Well, he did, because he's saying that Israel's controlling this war. And there is a factual data point that's open source that everybody knows that happened. It was reported on. Even President Trump talked about it, saying, yeah, I told them to turn around, and they did. That is a strong data point to ignore when you're saying the president's not calling the shots in these wars. Really? Because there's evidence that he is.
Well, there's evidence that he isn't.
Well, and he handled it. And
what was the justification for Israel hitting South Pars?
There is no justification.
What would be the justification for Israel launching the attack on February 28th?
I don't know. I'm not pro Israel.
The negotiations between Witkoff, Kushner, and Arakchi.
If I wanted to look at it through the lens of a curly sideburns guy, I would say, well, because they pose an imminent threat to us and we can never trust them. But I don't buy that. That's their argument. I don't give a shit what Israel does.
I do. When it thrusts us headlong into a conflict,
They didn't thrust us headlong into a conflict.
Absolutely did.
So then the Houthis sending over 300 missiles at our military and civilian vessels don't matter to you?
Those need to be removed anyways.
Our ships?
Our bases.
Well, but the thing is, they're present.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I'm not about being the world police, but we do have to have strategic military bases throughout the rest of the world, because if we
have over 750 of them, Alpha.
I agree with you on that. That does. I'm not someone that says we shouldn't have any military bases around the world, because if we don't, other people will. And then by the time we try to erect a military base, well, we're there. Again, we're not living in a world of utopia. We're living in a world where the globalist elite exist. And when we have to plan according to that, like whether we like it or not, we have to plan. You don't like war. I don't like war. But if a legitimate war arises, then I'm 100% going to support it. And we're in that war with the globalists. But what I'm saying is, everybody wants to say that we're attacking Iran for Israel. And I'm like, so all the shit that they've done to us just doesn't matter?
I am very convinced that Israel drew us into this war. I think we were on the verge of peaceful negotiations. And I think it was going to result in a
You think we're going to have peaceful negotiations with the IRGC that has been chanting death?
No. I think they were on their way out. I think they would have been strategically removed. Yes, I do believe. By us.
So a war is a shadow war.
No, shadow war, yeah.
Covert combat is still combat.
I also don't think I don't think we were prepared for the war. I mean, we're sending the USS Tripoli over there right now with the 33rd, what is it, the 31st MEU? Allegedly they're saying it might be to take over Karg Island. Who knows? 2,500 Marines will take it over, but we ain't going to be able to hold that.
We're not. If we put boots on Karg Island, it's not to take it over; it's to distract what's there. You'll see those guys get in and out, and they have to get out. And the reason that we won't hold that position is because we'll lose a bunch of Marines, because all they're going to do is drop bombs on it.
Yep.
So you'll see Marines go in there, extract what is there, destroy some stuff that's there, and then you're going to see them punch out.
All right, let's we got to start to wrap up here. We'll hit one more sponsor before we get out of here. We will get into rants, and guys, tune in to Sit Rep. It's going to be spicy tonight. It's going to be spicy. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about my friends over at Emerald Meds. I want to tell you about something that's not well known, but it's incredibly powerful. It's called Ace Manon. It's a compound from aloe vera that massively supports your body's stem cell production, cell health, and immune system function. And that matters because your body replaces about 1% of its cells every day. As we age or have health issues, we produce cells less efficiently. The thing is that almost no aloe products have Ace Manon, I think that's how you say it, Manon, because it breaks down after harvest, and you can't get enough from eating raw aloe because of aloe's laxative compound. However, Emerald Med created a stabilized Ace Manon supplement with the laxative compound removed. It's called Aloe RX. They made it for pharmacies, and now it is available to the public. I want to explain the value of Aloe RX. Stem cell injections can have amazing results, but they can cost $10,000 to $40,000 per treatment. Allo RX isn't the same thing as stem cell injections, but it massively supports your own body's stem cell production for less than $100. You could literally give your body this for 16 years for the same price as one stem cell treatment. For people who don't need something extreme like a stem cell injection, but want to help their body significantly, this is arguably the best value on the market. The longer you take it, the more compounding support that you have. If you want to support a company that supports our channel and free speech with ads, check out Emerald Med's Allo RX. Click the link below to learn more and get 30% off of Allo RX. And guys, I've been taking it now for almost 2 weeks, and I love it. I'm feeling really good. Like my shoulder, it's not 100% yet, but it's gotten a lot better. I went to my chiropractor yesterday for my back. I told you about the sciatica. Me and Alpha both had it at the same time last week. And I was talking about my shoulder, and he's like, "Are you taking anything for it?" And I said, "I'm actually taking Ace Manon." And he knew what it was. And he's like, "Oh, that's good stuff." Yeah. And so I was talking to him about it, and he gave me some stretches and stuff to do as well. But yeah, it was good stuff. So
was any of the stuff that he did to you able to kind of alleviate it at all?
The shoulder or the sciatica?
The sciatica.
Yeah, I can show you what to do.
No, I have the videos. I was just curious because that was one of the reasons I'm trying to get into a chiropractor today, and that was why I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'll make it or not. But it's almost pretty much gone anyways. But I still want to
stretch every morning. Stretch every morning, dude.
I know, man.
You got to wake up and stretch.
Well, what I've been doing so I have an inversion table. I just wasn't using it. You know what I mean?
I had one, and I get too lightheaded doing it, so I stay away.
You don't have to fully invert.
I know.
You can do a good angle. I kind of scared myself the other day real quick. I get on the inversion table and I do it, and I'm stretching. I'm like, oh, and I feel like a boop, and I'm like, I'm gonna be paralyzed. But immediately followed with like relief, like I was like, dude, I popped my own back. Like that was amazing. It felt so good, dude.
They are good stuff. Thomas Time 76, Cesar Chavez removed from the California Hall of Fame inductee list. Newsom considering renaming his state holiday. This due to sexual assault allegations, but maybe Newsom trying to use it for politics. I saw that he was accused of that. I saw it literally as we were going live, so I could not get to it. I'm sure we'll talk about that tomorrow with Chris Paul on Daily. We got the two California boys here back to back. Lee Walden, Article 5 Convention of States was part of the usurpation option, which gives the people the power to work this shit. I think he meant out. Yeah, Article 5 Convention of States, and then the same exact thing again. Agreed. Lee Walden, I speculate we have low-jacked all the illegal criminals since Trump's first term, and not just the phone. Keep up the great work, Marines. Semper Fi, boys. Boz.
Boy.
It spells Phi, P-H-I. Boz. Love our coasty friend there. Vera Barrow 1. Holy fuck, guys. Best daily show on the interwebs right here. Based audience to boot. Don't ever change. Much love.
There were a couple people. Someone had said, I feel like I need a cigarette.
You need a cigarette? I mean, look, we have a lot of friction at Badlands. We have differing opinions, and we will argue those. Me and Alpha are still very, very good friends. Okay. You know, a lot of people worry about do you guys hate each other like after these types of fights? Hell no. I love debating this stuff, man.
Yeah, you should see my arguments. Well, my old arguments with my dad, those were bad.
I was going to say you and another person, me and Ash were actually making fun of that. We're like, man, Alpha's going at it with I won't say the name, but and we're like, man, we don't like it when mommy and daddy fight.
Hey, listen,
friction's good.
I will be respectful when it's my friends, more than I will be, with some of the other people on social media, but you're gonna know my take.
Yeah, your take's wrong.
We will see.
You're definitely gonna want to tune into Sit Rep tonight.
For someone who, a lot of people say you're wrong, we have absolutely called the sequence of events to 100% perfection so far. Now, granted, eventually we're gonna get something wrong, but I even told my audience, look to Argentina and Chile, and you're gonna see some collaborations, things that are gonna be made, and that was about 2 weeks ago. And what did the president of Argentina come out and say? Oh, I'm going to be building a Trump wall. Maybe I'm just good at guessing, or maybe
Also, they
I
just pulled out the World Health Organization.
Maybe I see patterns. I don't know. Maybe I'm a Fed. That's what somebody in the chat said today. Not a Fed.
It's probably the Fed
Definitely
thing.
not a Fed.
Probably the Fed thing.
Definitely not a Fed.
Yeah. He was all right, guys. We'll see you tonight at SitRep at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk about the Declaration of Independence and how we get out of this. We'll also talk about the Joe Kent interview. We'll have clips and all that fun stuff. So be sure to tune into that. Also, Daily Herald coming up in an hour, followed by the GART exclusive live stream. GART Nashville. Get your tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events. Your live link will come out at 1 p.m. We'll see you guys later. God bless.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.